Far off, Aurora Monroe, known as Storm, watched the horizon. For her, the sky was more than just scenery. It was an extension of her emotional state. As a leader of the X-Men, Aurora was admired not just for her ability to control the weather, but for the calm and wisdom she brought to the group. The storm on the horizon wasn't just a sign of external battles, but also of internal ones. She was the moral compass of the team, always reflecting on how their actions impacted the natural balance of the world, far beyond just fighting villains. Meanwhile, Wolverine was testing his limits in the training room. Logan, with his adamantium claws extended, was known for his ferocity, but the real weight he carried was in his soul. His scars weren't just physical. Each one represented a life marked by pain and violence. Despite fighting alongside the X-Men, Logan was a loner at heart, someone who preferred to bear his burdens alone. But the team gave him something he couldn't ignore, a reason to keep going, something greater than his own pain. Rogue, on the other hand, lived her own battle. Walking through the halls of the mansion, her hands covered by gloves, she avoided any direct contact with others. Her power to absorb memories and abilities was seen by many as a blessing, but for her it was a curse. The voices of the people she had touched still echoed in her mind, especially that of Captain Marvel, whose powers now became a part of her. The pain of not being able to touch those she loved, like Gambit, isolated her emotionally. But despite the loneliness, Rogue was one of the fiercest fighters in the team, willing to protect those around her at any cost. Outside, Cyclops, the team's strategist, observed everything. Scott Summers, with his ruby quartz glasses, was the natural leader of the X-Men. He knew the responsibility of guiding the team weighed heavily on him, but the moral dilemmas of his decisions haunted him. Every time he used his optic blasts, he remembered the destructive power he held. His focus was on maintaining control, but leading such a diverse and powerful team made him constantly question whether his choices were always the best. In the training field, Betsy Braddock, or Psylocke, moved with precision and grace. Every strike, every movement was a display of discipline. With her manifested psychic blades and martial abilities, Psylocke was the perfect fusion of mind and body. However, her true struggle was internal. She still carried the conflict between the British aristocrat she once was and the ninja warrior she became after merging with Quanon. Her scars, both physical and emotional, were a constant reminder of who she was and what she had become. In the shadows of the mansion, Gambit moved silently. Remy LeBeau, with his characteristic charm, twirled a playing card between his fingers, preparing for his next mission. His past as a thief taught him to be cautious, but his loyalty to the X-Men was unquestionable. Even with the dangers always present, Gambit kept his spirit light, knowing that with each card thrown, there was more than just kinetic energy. There was also a piece of him, something deeper, more personal. In the history of the X-Men, each member carried their own burden, something that made them unique but also distanced them from the rest of the world. Jean Grey walked through the garden of the X-Mansion, lost in her thoughts. As one of the most powerful telepaths, also possessing telekinetic abilities, Jean knew that her power was unmatched. However, there was something deeper, something that haunted her: the Phoenix. This cosmic entity that resided within her waited silently for the moment to emerge. Jean knew that her power could either save or destroy the world, and that thought consumed her. She feared losing control, even when her friends saw greatness in her.